We hear this argument many times about Stomfo or Dacron, arguments for and against all the time. And it causes some healthy debate among us anglers. And this is just my way of using a Stomfo connector, but anti-tangle. So for when you're shallow fishing and you're slapping all the time, with the old conventional Stomfo, the loop hanging down from the top would sometimes give you a wrap around and cause problems. So to overcome this, because I don't like Dacron connectors, and the reason I don't like Dacron connectors is because there's too many areas for weakness, in my opinion, where you attach the elastic, where you attach the line. The surface area is very small. So I think there's a potential for a weakness, a weak spot. You could either cut through your elastic or the Dacron itself with knots around on the connecting point is fiddly, and you have to have sometimes people use 2 loops, sometimes people use 1. And for me, it's not neat, it's not tidy. I much prefer a Stomfo connector. So I use a lasso loop to connect my elastic, which is a double loop of elastic through the Stomfo, which gives it a big surface area and less risk of breakage. But we still have this rig loop here when you attach to your Stomfo. So how to overcome this? It's quite simple. You look at the carp gear that the lads use, you can see lead core. And just choose a lead core with a very small internal diameter so that it's quite tight on your main line. Before I tie the loop on a rig, I just put on 1 inch, 25 millimeters of this lead core on the line. And when I'm ready to fish, I have this on all my pole rigs. And when I'm ready to fish, I just wet the loop a little bit here and slide up this lead core right up to the Stomfo itself. And this does 2 things. It protects this knot here. You can see it's not visible under there. This knot also holds the lead core, stops it slipping up and down your line, so it keeps it nice and tight all the time when you're fishing. But also, it gives you a really tiny connection loop here. So there's less chance of this loop slipping out of the hook on the end of your Stomfo. And I've used this for a few years now, and I do a lot of shallow fishing in the summer, a lot of slapping and things like that. This way I can use the Stomfo with a piece of lead core attached, and I never have a problem with tangles. It's slapping over all the time. But what I do have is the strength in the connection of the elastic to the connector, because it's double elastic going through, and I have the added strength of the lead core of the lead core protecting the knot on my loop and protecting the chance, or reducing the risk of this loop coming out of the Stomfo is 0. So it's just a little tip that I use. The reason I use a Stomfo and how I use a Stomfo to give the same stiffness effect that you would have with a Dacron, but I have more strength